the last 2 years where I feel like a lot has changed the most. But is traffic still a good SEO KPI?
I will say it's kind of lower on the totem pole now through my casual reports that we do, especially when we stick to just talking about organic traffic and the performance of that. There are other KPIs that we report on that are more ROI based for a client.
And it's going to look like paid search, and it's going to look like affiliate. We're going to really crank on developing content and getting you links and cleaning up your tech stack and making your site be the best site it can be so that this is a performance marketing channel.
We have had a lot of clients where we'll have the KPI of organic form tracking or how many times of organic traffic click the schedule an appointment button, something along those lines. We've had those metrics be up and organic traffic be down.
Now what we're seeing is a very different and more murky set of input metrics as SEOs. And I think what we need to reinvent is what is the activity, and then how does that activity yield a result that the client wants?
Welcome to SEO On-Air. I'm your host, Koa Kauwe. This is brought to you by Stan Ventures. Today, for this episode, we get to explore what SEO looks like now that search, traffic, AI, and discovery are all changing. SEO used to be easier to explain: rank higher, get more traffic, generate more leads. But now the picture's more complicated. Traffic patterns are changing. AI is influencing how people discover information. Google still owns most search behavior, but LLMs and new discovery channels are growing. And clients still care about what they always cared about before: leads, revenue, booked calls, patience, and real business outcomes. So the bigger question is, what counts as SEO success when search stops looking like search? Today, joining us to help us explore this topic, we have two great guests. I'm going to give them each a chance to share a little bit about their background. Starting with Ryan, if you don't mind kicking us off. Thank you for joining us. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Absolutely, glad to be here. My name is Ryan Hill. I am the director of SEO at Glacial Multimedia based out of Portland, Maine. Our agency really kind of is the whole package of, kind of building websites, doing the SEO, all that fun stuff. I've been there for 8 years, started as a junior SEO specialist, worked my way up to the director of the department. We work in the healthcare industry, kind of various different clients on hundreds of sites all across the country. So we've kind of dealt with it all when it comes to ranking for different cities, dealing with different competitors, talking to different clients and showing them the worth of SEO. That's really kind of what it comes down to. Like you just mentioned, we have a lot of experience of, getting results that we want, getting the results they want, and then finally showing them why it's worth it to have our service for their business.
I'm excited to dive into the KPI aspect of this. This is part of the conversation I want to have today around what's really worth tracking and what's really valuable today. I'm excited too to chat with you about the healthcare industry because AI seems to have changed the search aspect of a lot of healthcare terms. So we might want to dive into that a little bit today as well. So again, thank you for joining us, Ryan. And Jordan, last but not least, tell us a little bit about your background.
Sure, cool. Great to be here, and thanks for having this podcast. I'm Jordan Koene. I'm one of the co-founders of PreVisible. We are an AI and search discovery agency, and I've just been an SEO for a long time, and I love the space and where it's changing. I've been fortunate enough to be on the enterprise side, where I was at eBay for a bunch of years as director of SEO and content development. And then I was on the tool and software side at Searchmetrics for 8 years, where I was helping lead growth for that platform side. And I think one of the interesting things, and what we're going to be talking about today, is measurement, right? And there's so much noise around measurement and what measurement means. So many tools now out there that are claiming that they have all the answers of what's happening in AI. Excited to unpack that and see where it goes.
Yeah, claiming that they have all the answers is fun as you start exploring what prompt tracking really does and what it means and all kinds of crazy details in there. I think we're going to start with a step back, though. We're going to take a look at SEO, maybe I would say at least before the last 2 years, where I feel like a lot has changed the most. But is traffic still a good SEO KPI? This feels like it's a bit of a loaded question, but I'm going to open it up to both of you. Is traffic still a good SEO KPI?
Oh, man. I mean, I will say it's kind of lower on the totem pole now. Through my casual reports that we do, especially when we stick to just talking about organic traffic and the performance of that. There are other KPIs that we report on that are more ROI based for a client, because the one thing I can say is we're not scared. When we talk to clients, we don't beat around the bush at all and try to give an explanation why they see red that is something that can be fixable sometimes. The one thing we've noticed and what I've said to a lot of our clients is a lot of organic searches that we deal with, a lot of doctors' names and then branded searches. Those get wrapped up sometimes in that when a client looks at organic traffic overall, that's kind of on the downslope now. I think with the optimization of GMBs being more prominent when you do searches, obviously the LLM AI component coming in there. But it's lower on the totem pole for me because I do touch on it. I explain why it might be down, why it might be up. But we have had a lot of clients where we'll have the KPI of organic form tracking or how many times did organic traffic click the schedule an appointment button, something along those lines. We've had those metrics be up and organic traffic be down. So what is the most relevant to a practice? We report on that first. If we do build the websites and we do like to pay attention to the engagement time and the time on page, everything like that we want to make sure stays steady because that's overall usability for us. But those kind of get touched on at the end compared to before. That used to be like a lead off, like if it was 2021, 2022, whatever, we go keywords are higher, traffic's higher, then have some more KPIs. Now, our overall mentality with my department and our group as a whole has been almost like more like Google Ads when it comes to reporting in a way, and talk about the most important KPIs where, we might optimize for some client that gets 12,000 users a month, but they might, there's no possible way they're going to get 12,000 clients into the door and schedule an appointment. Some of that could be blog traffic, all that fun stuff. But we really like to focus on, some of the more KPIs that we report on that are more ROI focused than just the traffic portion now. I still touch on it, but there are like 4 or 5 other things I talk about first to show, hey, this is worth it for your business compared to just the overall traffic numbers now.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that is really fascinating is that for the better part of a decade, so if we're going back, right, like you said, like 2 years prior to where we are today, and I think you look at what the industry did, what we all did as SEOs is we created this belief that SEO was a performance marketing channel, right? We were selling this thing as like, yo, this is a horse that's a winning horse, and we're gonna put a little bit of money into it. You're gonna hire us agency people, or you're gonna get some authority building, and we're gonna make this horse run faster. And this is gonna be a performance marketing channel, and it's gonna look like paid search, and it's gonna look like affiliate, and we're gonna really crank on developing content and getting you links and cleaning up your tech stack and making your site be the best site it can be, so that this is a performance marketing channel. And unfortunately, SEO never was a performance marketing channel. See, SEO is a centaur, right? It's half man and half horse. And the horse part is the performance marketing piece. It can run fast, but the top half is a human, and it's complex, and it has a brand and an identity, and it needs to be part of this ecosystem. And now with the introduction of where we are in the past 2 years, this like authority and presence and brand recognition and sentiment, all these things matter now. And so to Ryan's point, yes, it's down on the totem pole. The traffic metric alone just isn't the same as it was 2 years ago. And we really need to rethink the entire value chain of what is SEO, because the value chain used to be, we're going to work our way to this being a performance marketing channel. We're going to drive traffic, and that traffic's going to turn into conversions, and we're all going to be happy here. But as that moves down the value chain, we have to rethink the way we message what is valuable to a company and to their audience and customers and prospects.
The thing that comes to mind here is that SEO has been sold in a lot of different ways for the past decade. I like that you mentioned that it really was like performance marketing. Like early on, you would optimize a website and you would get new traffic, and that traffic would funnel down. And I think marketing is always kind of relied on those funnels of land them here and let them funnel down through here. I recently landed on a funnel of a website and found myself super irritated that I didn't get the answer that I wanted within a couple clicks of like that funnel, and left and asked my LLM to just find the answer for me because it can crawl their website, right? So I feel like we're changing the way that traffic interacts with the website pretty drastically, where now I don't even know how you track a bounce. Like if I get to someone's website and find what I want really quick and I leave, that's complicating the user experience that we've relied on to understand how good a website was built in the first place, like what you said, Ryan. But I do think that the creates a complicated question with, again, how SEO is sold today. A lot of companies are still offering X amount of blogs, X amount of like backlinks, X amount of this. And that is usually because they've tried to decide based on like their clientele, how big a package needs to be, how much they need to spend to see results. I want to assume it's usually with the best of intent. There's been a more recent push that understands that like, hey, and blogs have had their moment where they were really, really essential. And it seems like writing blogs has maybe dropped in its essential aspect of SEO today. So I want to understand, when you are doing SEO, and Jordan, to your point, redefining SEO, what is SEO today? It's a broad question, but I want to get your perspectives on what are we doing for SEO today? What has really changed, and how do we get results?
I mean, I'll just kick off real quick, but like, I think one of the key differentiators from SEO in the past, SEO today, is that we used to just have these like playbooks, right? We had these like recipes that we would use as SEOs. We would have the technical audit, and then we would go fix all these things because our core web vitals were shitty, right? Or we would do like a bunch of content optimization because, we've seen a decline in average rank. And so we've got to go and optimize all these pages, right? Now what we're seeing is a very different and more murky set of input metrics as SEOs. And I think what we need to reinvent is, what is the activity? And then how does that activity yield a result that the client wants, right? Or that the business needs. And oftentimes we used to equate blog posts with kind of crummy informational traffic. And I mean, I'm being overly glib about it, but like that's kind of what these blog posts and this blog post manufacturing would do for us. But the reality is that doesn't do anything. But we can still build good blog posts that do something else. Like a good blog post.
Half horse, half humans coming to mind right there.
Exactly. So that the blog post could help us elevate a new feature we have in our product. It could elevate a thought leader we have in our organization that we want to make more recognizable in an LLM. We could try to influence certain citations that show up, or we could try to change the perception of an AI overview. Or what Ryan said, we could improve the way GMB listings showcase themselves by enhancing a set of content that we have on or off of our site. The reality is that we have to shift what we're measuring. We have to shift what we're focusing our energy on, and stop thinking about everything as a like clear-cut recipe, because all those recipes that we used to use as SEOs they're out the window, right? And we're building a whole new restaurant. And right now, where we are today, the hard part about it is that the ingredients are a little inconsistent. The staff is a little rotational, and we're not entirely sure where to put the right pieces of the puzzle to build that dish. And so I think we have to want to be experimental at this particular point with where we are with AI discovery as a whole.
Absolutely. Yeah, especially like the blog piece. The one thing we are changing, and we tell all of our clients this, and what we really try to hit home with, is like the trustworthiness portion and kind of like bragging rights and what is great about you. Like we work with doctors, people who are operating on your eyes. You're going to go to a dentist, you're going to go to a dermatologist, people are going to like do a procedure to you. You need that trustworthiness portion. Now, what might have a blog 5 years ago for us might have been top 5 things you need to know about LASIK recovery. And if you got clicks for that, you did your interlinking, yada, yada, all that basic stuff, that was like a plus for us. You get traffic. Now for things to show up and have an LLM influence show up in the ChatGPTs of the world, you need to have, like, if you want to write a blog about LASIK recovery or even your main service page, having a doctor's stats on there, having a doctor's spin, something about the practice that makes them stand out. We say instead of just informational plain content, back then we used to rank really well. It's a LASIK page, cataract surgery page. You could go, what is it? What are the benefits? All the basic stuff you'd probably hear when you visited the doctor. Now you need to turn it more into like, hey, our practice has over 25 years of experience. We've done X amount of procedures. We have 4.5 out of 5 stars and 100 reviews on health grades. And like that stuff, we never, I had a coworker tell me kind of this AI LLM portion that's we're influencing now and trying to get higher citations and all that. It's forcing SEOs to kind of be more overall digital marketers now, rather than like, hey, let's refresh the content. Let's update a blog or get some links. Now it's like, okay, what does the on-page usability look like? Like what element of the practice is not as custom as it should be? It used to be very informational, would be kind of, if you hit on a topic and expand on it, Google would reward you. LLMs are more like, people are switching their searches from LASIK Orlando to who's the best LASIK surgeon or who's the best cataract surgeon in X area. And now we're to the point where we need to influence these pages with more stats that make it custom about that practice. Because, I'm sure you guys, if you're looking for a doctor, if you read a bunch of stats about him that are pretty impressive compared to somebody that doesn't, like you're going to choose that one. And, that's something that's changing as well when it comes to talking about blogs and like the content layout. You still want to be informational, but about the practice and about the doctors is a big.
I want to ask about that. I think that's fascinating that you talk about that. Like I call it the authority of like the individuals of the company, right? Like we're trying to prove that this company, whether it's a doctor, dentist, lawyer, tennis facility, whatever it is, has like credibility to everything they're saying. And for best practices for years, we posted on our internal blog and tried to like produce some content that would show up for search, for specific searches. Like you said, maybe the top 10 best, whatever it was, which is, I think is still a practice we're seeing today. But what I'm really fascinated about with what you're saying is the website itself gives, it's like me telling you I'm the best. This is my favorite referral for backlinks. Like if I said I'm the best basketball player in the world, you guys have probably watched the NBA finals or something recently and think, well, Koa's a liar. If every first grader said it, you wouldn't believe him. If every junior high school player said it, and it comes down to the credibility of who's saying it, right? And it seems like for the long time, our websites was just ourselves bragging that we're the best thing that's ever happened. And now we're seeing that more content has to be produced offsite in order to generate that authority. How are you guys seeing the broadness of SEO evolve today to include authority from other places?
I would say that's kind of the biggest gap and one of the biggest things we've kind of honed in on, where we kind of obviously your website and what you say about yourself is kind of the home base, but the thing that will take you to the next step is like, we see health grades get cited a lot, the ZocDoc health vitals, kind of those third party, when you get organic positive reviews, especially with the searches changing to, hey, I'm trying to decide between this eye care center or this dermatologist. Can you what are the comparisons between the two? And it kind of goes back to the bragging rights, the things that you control, the bragging rights content on your site. But the things that take you to the next level is certainly like, we talk about strong health grades. I'll just stick to health grades. I know there's 100 profiles we can always talk about, but we saw health grades really start to make an impact, and the ZocDocs and the health vitals of the world. When LLMs can pick up, oh, Dr. So-and-so has 4.5 stars at 100, or 100 reviews at 4.5 star average, that puts you a little bit more ahead than somebody who might have a really good website talking about themselves, but they're not mentioned anywhere else on a third party forum. That's one.
I don't know why that got me excited. I'm like, yes, that's exciting. That's exactly what I'm seeing. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's helpful. I think all of the extra stuff that we may have brought up as SEO specialists of like, here are dream things I wish the doctors would do, or what my client would do. Those are way more relevant now. Like if I could get a wish list of like the custom videos, you doing whatever it might be that just makes it more custom for your site, that kind of expresses how good you are at what you do. having that on your site, and then the third party stuff is huge. And that's something where we have to, some of it's collaboration, we can't just log in and make fake posts. Like, you need to kind of ideate with it. Like, and now I'm an SEO specialist now, trying to brainstorm with practices like, hey, here's how you can get more people to here. Like, here's what we can do on the site, but I can't be at the practice or whatever business every day. And now you're it's forcing your hand to be an overall like digital marketer, I guess I would say. Because, it's kind of a digital PR thing where you want that to be super strong. And before, we'd be like, you have good content interlinking schema, yada, 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 good to go. LLMs are forcing our hand with at least brainstorming that and having strong game plans for things like the third party reviews and all that fun stuff.
One of the challenges, right, is that like functionally all these off-page aspects have been totally like hyped up, right? Like, I mean, we all heard about Reddit like 8-9 months ago. Now it's becoming hyper verticalized, and I think, Ryan, your examples of a lot of these like medical review sites is not a surprise, right? Because as these LLMs progress more and more into different parts of the web to train, they're consuming all this data, and then they're leveraging that data as a part of their citation sources to create better responses. But functionally speaking, I think that there's a huge vacuum in how we're educating clients about what the differences are. And I think that's where the real challenge is, right? Because I'm sure, just like for you, Ryan, doctors, or for me, like many of my enterprise clients, they really don't understand what's changed. And there's a couple of key differences as to where we are today than where we were 2-3 years ago. And one of them is that LLMs do not function like search engines. They do not crawl the entire internet. They do not index all of your content. And an index is important because it's a historical record. An index shows that this page about Dr. X has now changed to page about Dr. X, Y, and Z, right? And that matters, because then to Ryan's point, like, I, as a doctor, I can go up there and I can update and I can say, hey, I have this credential and this credential, and I just won this award. And Google sees that change because it's indexed, right? And then you have rankings, which in and of itself is a unique beast, because you have choice, right? And someone might just like ranking number 3 better than ranking number 1. Does it happen often? No. But does it happen? Yes. And so, like, the reality is that, like, as we think about this traditional search experience, we need to understand that the mechanics are different than what an LLM does. Because an LLM works off of 2 sources of data today, maybe more coming in the future: training data. And that's why you see all these hype cycles around all these external influential drivers, because when Perplexity or Anthropic or OpenAI decides to train on ZocDocs or train on YouTube data, suddenly YouTube or Reddit is the most important thing to influence, because, my God, it's showing up all over the place in these LLMs. But that's just because the training data is skewing towards that source, right? And those things normalize over time. We've even seen Reddit go from 60% of citations all the way down to now like 15%, depending on some sources. Doesn't matter. It's basically normalized as something that is more realistic to the ecosystem of the web, right? And the second way that LLMs go about getting data and information is through a retrieval process, right? RAG or grounding. And these processes is them going into a search engine, finding something, bringing it back, and then presenting it. My favorite example of this is, like, if you ask, what is the weather today in Green Bay, Wisconsin? An LLM is going to respond back by going into grounding and finding actual weather websites that have what the weather today is, right? It is roughly 65 degrees. It's overcast and raining, and it's likely to rain all afternoon. And it's going to give you that in a response. An LLM is going to ground itself in search results where there's pages that track and monitor the weather and give you a response. If you go into that same LLM and ask, what's the weather like in December? It's going to use training data to go in and look at all the historical charts of weather. What's the average temperature? How much precipitation is there? And it's going to give you a response using training data, not retrieval data, to give you a response of what the future could possibly be of the weather. Understanding these mechanics is very important, because if our clients don't understand the mechanics, then they don't understand how to prioritize, like what Ryan was talking about, like how much energy should we put into ZocDocs, or how much energy should we be putting into our health grades, or our Reddit strategy, or our YouTube campaigns. And why should I do YouTube campaigns? Is it because fixing eyes is complicated? That is something that these experts, these deep experts, and these business owners and these marketers, the better they understand how these systems work, the more likely they are to make good choices to help build the trust that they're trying to create. And I think that's the piece that, Ryan, I think what you're conveying about what these medical professionals are trying to do, like everyone's trying to unlock that. Obviously, it's slightly different depending on vertical or industry.
That was deep. I might have to unpack some of that and make sure I understand it all. What came to mind was from the client experience. Their agencies are trying to optimize for LLMs. They're also trying to make sure you get ranked in Google, which still holds a majority of traffic. So what are the clients misunderstanding when they're talking to their agencies and saying, hey, I need to rank in AI? What's the gap that we're seeing from the marketing perspective of LLMs and the fulfillment execution of how we're actually executing AEO, GEO strategies?
I'm going to jump in real quick, Ryan, but I want you to jump in this. I actually think this is one of the first things. I'm correcting my clients on this. I'm sure that some of them don't like it, but you don't rank in an LLM. You're in a response. And being in a response is like fighting a whole different battle, right? And you've got to learn the mechanics of how to show up in the response. And that might take years to do. I used to be able to make you rank in Google by just making a few changes to your website. I can't make you show up in a response by making a few changes to your website.
Yeah.
And that's an important distinction, right? If you can start with that level of understanding, now we can start to really play the games of authority building and trust factors and creating your ecosystem and having a clear local strategy or GMB strategy or review strategy, because those things now matter in an outsized way to show up in a response. But I can still get you to rank, but I got to just go make all these changes to your website. And sometimes those trade-offs are really where the challenge is, right? Because oftentimes clients are chasing after what's new and shiny, which is showing up in responses, when in reality, what they need is to just improve the rankings and improve the infrastructure that they have so that they can then work their way towards all those other aspects, right? I mean, I think, Ryan, you probably have a much more unique perspective because your agency goes, soup to nuts, and you guys build the website, build the ecosystems. I don't get to do all those things with my clients, but like you have a much heavier control over like the whole ecosystem. I don't, but I have to educate them to understand like where in this journey are you so that we can actually get to the outcome you want.
I think you hit the nail on the head there when you talk about, I think obviously they're trained when they talked to us previously, make an update to the website, you see improvements for that thing. That's what service you have with us. That visibility portion, like I'll say visibility to them. It can be a bunch of citations, whatever you want to say. But yeah, like sometimes they do get overwhelmed because I think they take, and it's obviously not our client's job. That's what we're here for, to educate them. And they can come in with that old school mindset. I don't want to say like the reporting mindset that we have talked to them about and apply that, because I think they're just taking it one A to B. Like they see the list show up in a ChatGPT or Perplexity, whatever, and they kind of probably look at that like rankings, even though this is a whole different beast. And they take that mindset and just apply it to be like, hey, what updates can we make to our site to make us rank higher? Because I mean, like, more than me, like that's what they've been hearing for so many years. So definitely the misunderstanding, I wouldn't even say misunderstanding. It's been more of like, they haven't even known exactly what the factors are that go into it. And whenever I talk to clients personally, I like to kind of break it down because it can be overwhelming when it comes to everything you might need to do to have more visibility in an AI tool, especially, I'm sure that there's some clients that might not be as communicative with us and they come back out of nowhere and we give them this giant list of things, we reach out with all this stuff and, sometimes they're like, yeah, you guys are doing a great job. And then they'll want a meeting and go, what's going on with this AI stuff? the misunderstanding is taking kind of like that mindset of update the website A to B, you're here. Now it's like, I mean, the person in front of you, they have a really awesome YouTube channel that's talking about everything they're really good at. They have their doctors writing a blog. They have their doctors updating a blog talking about they just won the best eye doctor of whatever county. There is no more, like you mentioned, hey, we updated, can we just refresh a paragraph of content on our dry eye page? Will that make us rank higher in an LLM? Probably not. We need to talk about why somebody should choose you. I kind of start with the why choose bragging rights stuff. I know I've mentioned that a lot already, but I kind of like to break it down for them. But I do think the misunderstanding is what you mentioned of just that mindset of what they're used to. And all of us have made updates, whether it's a keyword report, click report, traffic, then you see the green numbers go from 3 to 1, all that fun stuff. We're still doing that, but even the metrics of what you report on and show a client right now is like, here's your visibility percentage, here's your citation, like it's turning into percentages, which is a whole different thing. But I will say some clients aren't really understanding. I think, if we come back 6 months from now, a year from now, a client isn't understanding the gap, and they could show up really well in AI search. And this goes back to the traffic part we talked about earlier. They could be doing really well. They're still kind of stuck in Google Analytics and like what that reports on. There's a misunderstanding there where they think that once you show up, you'll get an impression or something will be pulled into Search Console. They don't need to know that stuff right away on the first call when we're first talking about it, but there's definitely kind of like that, Google Analytics has been around a long time. It's been a lot of the main metrics for some people that might just look at a quick report. But they, getting them to understand, it's like, oh, here's like a percentage. Here's the queries we're tracking. Here's how much you're showing up compared to your competitors, and almost taking a leap of faith a little bit and being like, hey, we're at number 1. We're not going to be able to see clicks right now, like the 0 click visibility and all that stuff. The click part won't be there, like the definite metric. It's almost like a leap of faith of like, your visibility's up. We have to assume that your visibility goes up. People see more information about you. They call you or they order something online, whatever it might be. That's another misunderstanding piece where, like I said, I think as time goes on, it will get better and probably more exact, I think. But right now, there's definitely a leap of faith element with the whole, like, you used to just report on the amount of clicks and how many people went to whatever page. Now it's like you can be ranked number 1 for every single thing. People are definitely seeing you more, but those concrete metrics that we used before aren't going to be there for you. Those are changing too. And kind of finding the ROI portion of why this is worth it to your practice is just a little bit more gray compared to the, hey, we got you 150 more clicks in a month. Luckily for us, and I'm sure you've heard this too, Jordan, like we have heard a lot of, just because it's the new hot thing, we have heard a lot of our clients found us on ChatGPT. Our clients found us on Claude, which is great. Hopefully that stays. That makes us feel a lot better. But luckily,
you have to be tracking that, right, Ryan? Like, I mean, that's one of the challenges. Like, and a lot of businesses aren't even tracking that in their forms, right? Or they're not asking, especially with like local businesses. It's a call type experience, right? Like, if I'm trying to get an appointment with an eye doctor, like it's a call experience, right? And like, if you're not asking for where did you find me, you're not getting any of that input as to, is it from Claude? Is it from ChatGPT? Because that awareness play just isn't coming through in analytics anymore. It reminds me of, like, I was in Germany just this past about a month ago, and Germany has this interesting law where local businesses can basically remove negative reviews, right? It's considered like a slanderous in the country. And so they can just put in a request with Google. And if you're a local business, Google will just delete the negative review almost instantly. It's better than trying to verify or prove or just fight it. So then they just remove it. So one of the comedy things about using Google locally in Germany is that every restaurant has a 4.5.
Yeah, everyone's the best.
Everyone's the best. Everyone's the best. And it was like 2 o'clock in the morning. I was with a buddy of mine. We're going out to get something to eat. And I was just joking with him about this law and this rule. And he turns and goes to me, nobody comes to this restaurant because it has good food. They only come to this restaurant because it's open at 2 o'clock in the morning. And it's like, it's one of those things. You gotta know what you're there for, right? You gotta know why you exist, right? And like, if you're the shawarma restaurant in Berlin, you're not there because you have the best shawarma in town. You're there because you're open at 2 a.m. And that's probably the most important thing that you should be telling every single LLM, because guess what the prompt that matters most for you is? What's open at 2 a.m.? And I'm hungry. Like that is the most important prompt for that company.
So that I want to go back actually to like the use of SEO and AI today, specifically in like a CEO. I'm thinking of a CEO coming to the marketing agency and saying, "Hey, we need to rank right now." And he's like, "I got $10,000, $20,000, $100,000 a month. Let's go make this happen." And I'm curious if you guys, this is my opinion that I'm like kind of forming as we talk here, but it seems like the amount of money you throw at it isn't necessarily going to do much for the situation today, because volume of content and velocity, it's accessible to everybody. So if you pay an agency to produce a ton of content and one of those other competitors of yours is like using labor-based marketing and recording videos and putting their face on stuff, feels like you can lose the game because it's an effort-based program now that is strictly based on value of the content and no longer the volume and velocity. What are your thoughts on what's going on today with quantity versus quality?
I mean, quality is always where it was at. It's just that, a lot of brands use quantity to just outduel competitors in certain topic areas or certain authority spaces, right? And I think that today you can still throw money at this. I actually don't think that this is about budgets and money or capacity. It is the question that's still going to stand though is, do you actually have an experience, a product, a service that can address those expectations and needs of users? Because today with an LLM, you can go and spend all the money to try to show up for something, and you'll probably show up, but it probably won't last very long if it doesn't actually solve the thing that people want, right? If the eye doctor all of a sudden wants to show up for, I don't know, plastic surgery, you can spend the money, you'll show up for plastic surgery. You probably won't show up for very long. There's going to be a lot of really disappointed people who are calling you for plastic surgery. You don't know how to do plastic surgery. And I think that's the thing that like a lot of companies make this mistake. They want to show up for more and more and more and more and more, but more is not necessarily better. And more doesn't actually address what your customer or your target audience is. And you're misguided on what more is. And I think that really is what hurts most companies right now with their SEO efforts or their organic efforts.
Yeah, absolutely. And some of that has definitely come from, I'm sure you've dealt with this of, another agency doing some kind of scan on your website and being like, hey, you're not showing up for these 50 keywords or whatever it might be. And like informing the clients, like the more isn't always better. Like here's this batch that is going to maximize the relevant clicks for you. You can get more clicks, doesn't mean more business, but yeah, going back to what you said, Jordan, I mean, our philosophy at Glacial has definitely been, and Google has said this too, like make sure it's about the user, make it the easiest for the user and have like a person using the site. So whenever I even do SEO, like I think we're at a benefit, like when you do SEO, like when you structure a page or what you might include or what you might want to know about a product, a business, like what would you just want to know as a user? Sometimes take the low hanging fruit and be like, okay, if I was Googling something, like what would I want to know about a car dealership? What would I want to know about a movie theater that I'm going to if there's two in the same locations? Like, am I going to go to the one that has nicer pictures and they have these awesome videos of them like going through the dealership, nice crisp videos, they're custom. It's the same thing. I think that's kind of like some tried and true SEO law of like, keep it user based first. Usually when you have that mindset, people always talk about FAQs, frequently asked questions. Like keep it along the lines of what do people obviously search the most, but what's the most relevant to them? Certainly when there are some procedures that cost a lot of money, there are a lot of cost elements that come into play with SEO that you kind of have to be careful. Well, like you can show up for it, but it's like, what exactly do you want to say? When people might be talking about the cost of a procedure. Like there are a lot of people that do those searches, but if you don't have good content to go with what they might be searching, it could be a total turnoff whenever they read the page and whatever you have. So keeping that uniqueness and having it all geared towards a user and giving them the best experience is still, like, even in this day and age of talking about AI and automated this, automated that, like I always say Google and AI are also still a business that want to show the best answers. And the more that they show people what the best experience is for them, the people are obviously going to keep using it. So it's not like, somebody could throw $30,000 at a complete content rebrand on their site and just try to keyword spam stuff. Like you can write a 2,000 page or 2,000 worded page. If it doesn't really resonate with somebody doing a search or wanting to schedule an appointment and use your company, it's not going to be useful. You could have a 500 word page, and if you hit on the biggest topics that people do searches for and what's most relevant to them, back it up with your expertise of whatever you do, that's way more relevant and useful, and what they tend to pull in kind of like that bullet point explanation format for the AIs, LLMs, and then AI overviews too, obviously. Those tend to get pulled in those bite-sized answers of when you stay like user-focused, hit on the popular search term and what is the most relevant to people.
I think it's interesting that you have that perspective coming from the medical marketing standpoint, where your money, your life is not going to spotlight companies that they think are doing something that could harm somebody or questionable, and it's like results and stuff, right? Like Google and LLMs, their entire job is to make you want to come back and use them over and over and over and over again. So if they don't think you have the best solution, they're just not going to rank you or not going to position you there. And I think that's what makes valuable content instead of just volume of content, like what I guess so much better today. I think it's just always improved. Like it's always been the case, and it continues to be the case. From the tracking standpoint, we're almost out of time. So I have one final question for you guys, because I am thinking about the future of SEOs, the future of marketing. What separates SEOs that create real business results from SEOs that just look impressive in a report, especially when reports have more black holes than ever today? What are you looking for in an agency? What's going to separate the best from the others over the next couple of years?
Yeah, no, I will say I'll go based off of, we talked about earlier about hitting on the more popular KPIs of like, our sites will have some kind of form. We can track phone call clicks, all that fun stuff. Hitting on that stuff more often of what's more ROI based is kind of the key for us right now. What I have seen from, it could be another agency, like I said, whenever your clients try to get poached or something like that, like some reports have certainly been very broad. Like we obviously pay attention to the Search Console, how many clicks you get through that, the visibility portion for AI. We've seen reports that say like, hey, you rank for 1,000 keywords, and just because they're pulling from like Search Console, whatever that might be. I think that can sometimes be misleading. Like you said, quality over quantity. And I think you really have to educate your clients. And like we use very bare bones reporting. Whenever I talk to clients, I'm very straightforward with them. I don't try to hide anything. It's more like, I'll just stick with traditional, like the rankings and Search Console, since that's been here for a while. But we do pull up the reports of like, hey, here's how many clicks you got. Here's the overall impressions. Did they go up or down? What did the ranking do? What was our update for that? I think really sticking to like what you did for somebody. Here's what we have as your KPIs and what we think is worth it to your business, even though the KPIs we track will be a lot smaller of a number compared to you getting a traffic report from Google Analytics that says 10,000 users a month. If we have more people requesting an appointment, if we have more people staying longer on the site, if we have more people clicking the book an appointment button or whatever it might be, interacting with your Google My Business profile, We stick to those a little more than the broad, like, hey, in Search Console, whatever tool somebody else might use, you don't need 100 keywords to go up. You really need like these 30 right now. I think some people try to make it as broad as they can to sometimes cover up maybe not getting the best traffic to the site per se, like when we talked about overall traffic reports and everything like that, and those kind of being lower on the totem pole. We'll touch on that, but those are kind of the last things we talk about. Like I said, kind of moving towards that general, like talking about the visibility, citations, what we've done to improve your overall AI visibility, and then the traditional rankings. Really kind of just sticking to, here's what we did, here's what improved, and here's why this was worth it to your company based on the preset KPIs. Just sticking bare bones with that, I think is a little bit different than what I've seen some other agencies do, where they try to keep it very broad. They're like, hey, your impressions are up by 100K, but their clicks went down.
ROI over the vague traffic. I think I agree completely. Jordan, we have like a minute or two left here. Give us your perspective on that.
I mean, I think always the best SEOs were able to connect to business KPIs, right? Like business outcomes, right? Does a company want to grow revenue? Do they want more, patients in their practice? Do they want more form fills? Do they want more leads? Like you have to be able to communicate the business's core objective. And now the translation of what a great SEO can do is be able to adapt a business to their current services offering messaging to those business KPIs. And I think that's where we're evolving towards, is that this SEO game isn't just this performance marketing channel of just running more traffic up. It's actually, how do you get to the outcome that the company has, right? Am I trying to get someone to register for a webinar, sign up for a video that we've published, get them to be part of our newsletter, buy a product? Like all those activities are incredibly important, because activities mean that you resonated with that user, regardless of where it is, a response, a ranking, an LLM, a search engine, doesn't matter. Like you actually were able to communicate what that person needed and found a way to do it effectively. And if you can scale it to repeat that activity, now you've achieved the real success of what organic looks like today.
I wish we had more time, because my next question would be diving into like what actions an SEO has evolved to have to take to like really drive more down that funnel. It used to be all website related, and it feels like multi-touch has become so much a part of marketing today that SEO's jobs have expanded so much. I wish we could dive into it. We'll have to have you guys back on again for another podcast recording. For now, we're out of time, so I want to thank you, Jordan and Ryan, for joining us on this episode of SEO On Air, and we'll see you next time.